welcome back to another spooky episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and he with an exposed backbone and a jar of herbs and water.
Who, me? Alex Dandino.
It's you, baby. I'm sorry about your life, baby in the jar. Neither here nor there. Guys, before today's final episode, the finale of The Pod Digs Del Toro month, a little bit of business. It is official. Your friends here on the Film Alchemist Pod are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. It's the absolute best way to support the show. It's the absolute best way to have us support you with the exact movies you want. So, guys, you can get in for as little as $1 a month. You will have access to our community that we've already assembled. You'll have access to our library of Patreon-exclusive episodes. And as you begin to climb the Highlander tier ranking system, you yourself can begin to select the specific films that you want us to talk about on the Patreon-exclusive feed. We are doing a lot of work over on Patreon, making it tighter, better, bigger, so that you guys will have so much, just hotness.
Fewer calories.
It's like that Nelly video. I put a Band-Aid on under my eyes. It was getting hot in there. That's going to age me.
Is that why he had a Band-Aid on?
Because of heat?
Because it was hot in her?
I think it's because it was sexy.
Oh, got it.
Sexy. You can't have any rips or tears on your body with that much sexy, or it'll pour out like when they stop the containment unit in Ghostbusters. Psh, just hotness pouring out of Nelly's face. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're discussing. Guys, go over to patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Every little bit of support is greatly appreciated, guys. So thank you so much for those of you who support us. Thank you for those of you who are about to as well. We promise it'll be worth your time and money. Go to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to Film Alchemist is the YouTube channel. You can see our beautiful, haunting, ghastly faces over there. Live versions of most of the podcasts, maybe some cool new upcoming projects that we've been working on for a long time that hopefully are going to manifest this year, like a ghost of our sins past. Make sure you email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the social media you're on. We're easy to get a hold of and love to hear from you guys. Also, if you would be so kind, something that really does help out pods like us, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you find us. Couple sentences about why you dig the show, and that 5-star helps us defeat the algorithmic war machine that's trying to keep us down, man, keep us in the dirt. So thank you guys so much for all the support. We just keep having better and better months, man. This thing is heading in the right direction, and we appreciate it. Right. We ain't here for business. We're not here to talk about Nelly's hotness.
Nope.
We're here to talk about Guillermo del Toro, one of our favorite film directors. This month, the Pod Digs Del Toro. We put it to the patrons. We will let you guys select from the remaining Del Toro films which one you would like us to discuss most. Nightmare Alley was not included, but I assure you we will be crossing paths with Nightmare Alley down the road. So I believe our choices were Devil's Backbone, Mimic, Blade, Pacific Rim.
Blade 2.
Blade 2. We've already done Blade. Also, that's not a Del Toro movie. And Hellboy. And it was a tight race. Pacific Rim almost got there, but the movie selected by our patrons, The Devil's Backbone.
El Espinazo del Diablo.
There you go. Take that in your little Band-Aid. Cover that with your little hotness Band-Aid right there. It's going to leave a scorching mark. All right. This movie, I remember hearing a lot about in the days before my life was spent online, right? You had to actually find stuff. You had to hear about stuff word of mouth. And I kept hearing about this movie.
2001, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would imagine the first Del Toro movies I had seen were, I saw Mimic at a slumber party, very young, loved it. Hellboy, Blade 2 in the theater.
Yep.
But I heard about this one, and I didn't associate Del Toro yet as that guy, right? He had made movies I liked, but him as a filmmaker had not impacted my life yet.
Right.
I kept hearing about Devil's Backbone, right, at film school. So I sought it out. It took me a while, but I found the DVD, and I brought it home, and I absolutely adore this film. Again, most of the films we've talked about this month, this is a perfect distillation of everything I love about Del Toro. This movie is a real-world ghost story, right? But the ghost, we talked about this before the show, right? This is a ghost story that happens 80% during the day, right? Yeah. Where everything's in full light. There's a lot more ghosts than just the sad little boy walking around the orphanage. This is a really harrowing tale, but it has that kind of magical energy of children bonding together, right? Believing that the world will eventually sort itself out and they'll be okay, even though they've seen more tragedy than a lot of adults. Everything about this film works for me. Alex, opening thoughts on The Devil's Backbone.
The Devil's Backbone. I had never watched this movie before.
I love it when that happens. Hell yeah. What'd you think?
I thought
gut reaction.
I thought I had. I had not. I love it when that happens, by the way. Like, I always feel like I've seen a movie, and then I start watching, like, I thought this was a different movie altogether.
There are so many ways with which pop culture and little tidbits filter into our brains now without watching the whole movie. That sometimes
what is that
happens.
Called? It's the phenomenon, the
Mandela effect.
And yeah. So yeah, like movies in general these days, because of the internet, yeah, just everything's a Mandela effect for me personally. The Devil's Backbone, I love it when Del Toro does historical stuff. Like, I know that that's like not something that anybody thinks about when when you think of Guillermo del Toro, you think monsters, you think, fantasy, that kind of stuff. I do love his historical stuff, and that actually is a lot of it. From most recently Nightmare Alley, to Oscar-winning Shape of Water, to
Pan's Labyrinth,
Devil's
Backbone, yeah.
Devil's Backbone.
He plays a lot in real-world historical settings and then adds layers of genre on them to make them more accessible, yeah.
I like this historical fantasy niche he's sort of found himself in. Like, Nightmare Alley's sort of different than that, but like at the same time, The Devil's Backbone is this really interesting historical fantasy gothic horror type thing that works for me personally because he just grounds the real world is grounded so firmly that when fantastical things happen, it's less, I think it's interesting. And I was watching it, I was like, I guess it's less scary. And I guess I put it in more expected. Like, I think this is the thing that I like the most about Guillermo del Toro's movies is the supernatural, the things that happen that are not normal in this world that come about in his films are never unwarranted. They're never this fictitious thing. They are completely based in history. They're based in something that has happened in the movie's timeline that gives cause for the supernatural to take presence. And I think that is something that sorely is missed sometimes in movies of its ilk. And Guillermo del Toro never misses an opportunity to explain, and not in an expository, boring, obnoxious way, but he explains the world as it unfolds, so that when supernatural things happen in movies like The Devil's Backbone, we have just a little ghost boy walking around this huge orphanage. You're not shocked by it at all. You're kind of just like, shit, well, we should have all just seen this coming. I don't understand why any of us are sitting here. I don't know why any of us are sitting here surprised that we're all shocked. Like, I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. This is what I love the most, and that's what makes, I think, The Devil's Backbone one of his best movies, to be honest with you. Like, not the best movie for me, but one of the best for sure.
I think it's strange because this movie, it feels like he's taken and redone parts of this film twice, right? You could definitely say that Pan's Labyrinth is kind of a souped-up version of this, right? Mm-hmm. Where the history is a little more present and in the front.
Absolutely.
Also, it just has real Crimson Peak vibes, right? He kind of did like souped-up, more visually arresting version of this with that, right? And this movie's beautiful. I'm not throwing stones at that. But what I love about Del Toro's take, especially his ghost stories, right? I really latch on to his theory of ghosts. So many ghost stories I watch, there is this something bad happened and now there's a ghost that wants revenge, right? It feels like how a lot of these movies play. Del Toro never loses sight of the fact that a ghost is a remnant of an actual living, breathing human being that had agency and power and a future that was taken away from it cruelly, right?
Right.
And the movie just opens with, what is a ghost? You know, ... There's a couple sentences after. And then a ghost is a tragedy condemned to repeat itself again and again is a sentiment that I think perfectly captures why we are so fascinated with ghosts, right? It's one of the things that religion has never answered satisfactorily, science, you know, psychology. No one's ever been able to tell us why do these terrible things happen. And in this movie, the movie starts with a boy bleeding on the ground, and then we just see him tied up and submerged, what looks like by another child. Yeah. And so that's one of those moments where there's nothing that's ever been created by humans, right? We spend our whole lives trying to avoid the big scary question of maybe none of this means anything and we're just meat bumping around into other meat. Right. And this is a really fucking scary way to do that, right? And then you pair it with this fucking bomb just lands right in the middle of an orphanage, right? It's kind of the I'll buy a giant billboard to Hitchcock moment of the movie, right? As Hitchcock said, right? Two men talking at a table is nothing. Two men talking at a table with a bomb under the table, right? Ticking down. That's a fucking movie scene. In that moment, right? The tragedy of what's happening to these kids as a microcosm for the tragedy of an errant bomb being dropped on a fucking orphanage and not going off. It reminds us that every fucking day in someone's life, a bomb has gone off. Right. And so the entire film takes this inevitable journey to an explosive and tragic ending, right? We just, you know that nothing good is going to come.
Right.
But you still find these really human moments of joy and perseverance at times that just work so fucking well for me in this movie.
Agreed. I mean, I think that there's just the real worldness this is something that Del Toro does better than anybody, in my opinion. The real worldness is so much more terrifying than anything that is coming up in the fantasy or the supernatural of it all. Like, the real world is so misunderstood. And I think that that's something that Del Toro does better than, does really well in The Devil's Backbone, is not necessarily, it's the real world outside the grounds of the orphanage that's misunderstood. Like, the children, fuck, I can't believe I forgot the kid's name. Carlos, right? Carlos is the little boy's name. Carlos is just this great microcosm of all of us watching this movie. Like, we're just all waiting for the bomb to drop, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Like, there's constantly this there's this dread that goes throughout the movie that it just never goes away. Even when we start seeing supernatural things, that is not the scariest part to me. Like, honestly,
right?
Like, it's just I keep coming back to this point, but I can't stop thinking about it when it comes to this movie. Is like, the scariest shit again are all of these adults, all these people. Like, obviously, not necessarily like Federico Lupi's Cesaris, the doctor, and Carmen, but particularly Jacinto. I think Jacinto is he's the bad guy technically, right?
He's the groundskeeper, maintenance guy. Yeah.
This was I tried really hard to remember everybody's names because I did not do well with Kronos.
You're a better man than I.
I was really trying hard to remember everyone's names.
I'll do my classic, give them snappy nicknames to remember them by. But this is the thing, though, right? To your point, the opening of this film, I think, is a great example of why Del Toro's fables and fantasies work so well, because of this real world building, right? So to your point, imagine an orphanage where a bomb was dropped, right? They came and de-armed it, but they didn't take the fucking bomb, right? And I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm like, that means there's still shit in there that is explosive, right? Like,
it'll blow up any minute.
Anywho, okay. So this guy gets brought in by these two soldiers, right? We find out that there's a rebellion against this government force coming, right? And if I'm being honest, by the end of the film, I still have no idea historically what this conflict is. But you get it right away.
It's the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah, so you understand right away.
I had to look it up, though, just
what's
so-
going. Yeah, because I was like, they didn't fucking name it. I just know there's a cause, right? And they've got this gold, but just think of these little moments, right? So we see this lady with one leg saved. They brought another boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're always in trouble. These troops are always in trouble. We cut outside to this wonderful moment of him trying to make friends, right? Carlos meets Al and the other kid, and they start exchanging, right? I'll give you this. Yeah, I'll give you this for a comic book, right? They're kind of exchanging, a little bullying starts to, creep in, whatever. But this very, like, relatable, nice childhood moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Carlos realizes he's being left. And that scene of him running through the doors of the orphanage as the car drives away, the guy who brought him, who seemed to be friendly with him, won't even acknowledge him, says nothing. And I was like, that is a heartbreaking, terrifying moment.
It's brutal.
Just imagine being left there. And then the doctor doesn't even tell him what we know to be true, that his father's dead. I mean, that the real world horror and heft of this, right? The thought that, as the head school mistress says, right, this isn't a prison, there are no bars, but he's not getting out of here, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that this orphanage now in the middle of the Civil War is a safe haven, but there's a bomb in the courtyard. You're setting up all of these clashing moments between childhood fantasy, the supernatural fantasy, and the real world reality of pain and war and suffering. And they all just, they don't bounce off each other in a way that is, it's like a ping pong game, right? Every time they hit, it's a little burst of magic. And you're like, holy shit, this is all working so absolutely well.
Right.
I think that is what separates, because if you don't care enough about the real world, the stakes when you layer the fantasy on top have no teeth.
Agreed. And that is, I think, of all the movies we've watched this month, this one has the most, and I am glad the patrons picked this one, or our Discord. This one has the most, like, real world teeth. Like, I think Pan's Labyrinth is second, but this one,
That's the meanest fucking movie he ever made, I feel like. Well,
What?
the captain's the meanest character.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, this is the thing though. This one, instead, because like Pan's Labyrinth, for me, Pan's Labyrinth, the captain is the bomb sitting in the middle of the courtyard.
Yeah.
This one is a physical bomb. Something about that, I'm just like,
I'll
oh,
never
God.
forgive him for that last moment, though. That hurt me so deeply. And I wouldn't say anything in this movie got me that fucking bad. But, yeah, they're both, they really do not skimp on the cruelty, either of these films.
Why do you think that is, though? Like, this is something, because now this is the second movie of its ilk. Because I don't know about you, but it does feel like a spiritual, Pan's Labyrinth does feel like a spiritual sequel to this.
Pan's Labyrinth feels like now I have the heft and a little more experience. I'm going to really make that movie, and just amp it up a little bit.
Why do you think he wants to constantly put these kids, like, not even in danger? Like, people put children in danger in movies all the time, but like this movie and Pan's Labyrinth particularly draw the same parallel of like, why are we putting kids in not only like the unenviable position of being like sort of powerless in their situation, but also we're putting them in like not just mortal danger, but they're they're like mortal danger on multiple fronts, like not just in the real world, but then in a fantasy world as well.
Right.
Why?
To me, this is how I look at it, right? If you watch a Batman film, a Spider-Man film, a Transformers film, whatever, right? Like modern day fables as we do, right? These fantasy worlds. When you see a kid fall off a building in Batman, you're not like, well, someone's going to have to sweep that kid up in the next scene. Like, that's just not going to happen, right?
Right.
We are going to save that kid, and it's going to remind us that Batman will be there when we need him, right? Superman's going to fly in and catch that kid, or catch the car before it lands on the kid, right?
Right.
So these moments of danger are presented, but they don't actually offer us an emotional response to danger, right? At a genetic level, we are trained to respond to danger, right? And the best movies can activate that. When you watch something like these big tentpole movies, you know that they're not going to fucking squash the kid, right?
Right.
What I think is really important about the fact that Del Toro has these kids in harrowing situations, right? Literal war zones. And even seeing them betray each other, right? Like when they shoot the water vase that he's carrying, right? And you know that guy's looking for gold and something's up with him.
Right.
You don't know what's going to fucking happen to him in that moment. It's actually scary. The fucking movie starts with a dead fucking child, right? Mm-hmm. That's a really heavy thing to hang on the scoreboard.
Start the movie
right
off
away.
With something you're like, okay.
That maybe a child murdered another child, right? And that maybe he's trying to kill this kid now. What I think the actual important elements of that, besides giving us higher stakes, right? And reminding us that the kids are not safe in these films. I think it actually reminds us of the magic of childhood. Is that even in these most dangerous situations, the ability to still project a brighter, more magical future is really important. And I think this movie does it in an exceptionally interesting way. When Santi's ghost begins to appear in the film, right?
Right.
It's kind of hinted at the start, right? Reflections, this and that. I believe after the first time, Carlos doesn't run from him. Carlos goes to him. This is another child who is in pain. Well, not even he's dead, right? But another child who needed help and couldn't get it. Carlos doesn't run from him in horror. Carlos says, I'm not going to run anymore. Right. Tell me how to help you and how to make sure a bunch of us don't die, whatever the mysterious whispering prophecy is. Right. And I think the fact that you see Carlos for most of the film walking towards Santi, that's exactly why I like Del Toro's take on this, right? Is that those kids have not been beaten by the enormity and scariness of this world yet. In a way that a lot of us adults, we just become cowards because we've got shit to lose.
Right. I mean, I think that's, yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's the wonderment of children in the face of like severe adversity. Yeah, I agree. That's what it is. And I think that's why the stakes feel like they're so much higher, because these kids are not, especially the ones in this movie, are constantly put in these like horrifying situations that you're like, there's no one deserves whatever's about to happen. Like the only people who, like, none of these kids deserve any like ill will. Like anything that happens to them is a strike against whoever causes, like mainly Jacinto, obviously. Like there's just blowing up a kitchen.
Yeah.
Not great. Like,
well, also just the fact that we know that they're all in this place, and that probably means they're not going to go back to families, right? Like that alone is enough for most films.
Right.
And then it just keeps piling on them.
Yeah. I think this movie particularly piles it on in a way that you're like, good Lord, can some of these, just one of these kids catch a break? Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like,
the one who sighs was me watching this movie. Oh, jeez. Oh, gee. Oh.
Especially, like towards, like right in the middle, like when he blows up the kitchen and like you're following Cesares when he wakes up and he's looking around. I'm like, the first time you see like the one kid who's just like bloody on the ground, I'm like, fucking whoever needs to do it, fucking go get that guy.
We'll talk more
I had
about
some serious problems.
But dude, just imagine at the end the kids are the ones pulling shrapnel out of Owl's back. Like this movie spares no one, right? This is
not at all.
I think the other kind of fun thing too about the ghost element of this film, right? Mm-hmm. Before we dive into kind of more of the plot points, right?
Yeah.
I love the way that every single frame of this movie is full of ghosts, right? The ghost of the people we used to be, the ghost of the people we wish we were in Jacinto's.
That's a good way to put that.
Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's this, the woman who's mourning when she had a leg, right? The professor who is not the man he once was and cannot give the mistress what she needs as a partner, right? There is just this kind of looming sadness with every character, right? So that we don't need to rely on the fear of the ghost, because these are universally scary things to all of us, right?
Right.
And I thought that was like, even Jacinto, who becomes the villain of the film, right? Because of his greed, right? He's really rooted in a pretty understandable thing. I was left here I don't want people to know I came from here. I want better. And that, twists him and deforms him into this kind of monstrous person that he becomes.
Right.
But these are all, so I think that's the other thing about this film I love is that, there's just always a ghost somewhere, right? And you pair that with this, we got to put up the giant 20-foot Jesus because New Spain is Catholic. Hey, people in town fucking drink shots of the dead baby juice because it can give them boners again. And then the doctor himself takes a shot. There are these illusions and fantasies happening even in the real world that are constant and pervasive. It's just it really is such a deep and packed film.
Yeah. The formaldehyde boner juice thing was
okay, so that made me gag as much as the guy wiping the blood with his hand in the bathroom in Kronos. You fucking gigantic non-hand washing poop monster. Him drinking that, I was like, I don't care if it's the greatest herbs in scotch of all time.
No.
That cannot be okay. That cannot be okay.
Gross.
Yeah.
That
also,
was one of those things. Yeah,
I love Del Toro. I can't wait to buy him whatever fanciest exotic drink he wants when he writes me my scene from Pan's Labyrinth. The other question I'd have is, you gotta tell me, what is the fascination with babies in jars?
Yeah.
What is going on?
The fascination with homunculi is pretty.
Yeah. I think if I remember right, he said he saw that in real life and it was just a really powerful image to him. And he's not wrong. It's something that is not easily forgotten.
Certainly powerful. I'll give him that. But Jesus Christ. I mean, to turn it into boner juice, that's the new.
Well, that's it. I mean, he does start off like, there are other possible causes. But then when he gets to boners, I'm like, isn't that what it all comes back to?
It's always
it's just old guys with money are just like, just make sure that I can keep spreading this seed. Whatever means necessary. I don't care what suffering or terrible thing. That's why we're not going to have sharks anymore, right? Yeah. Is because people need boners. That's why we're like extincting rhinoceroses because we need boner pills at gas stations. Like, it's a horrible, horrible world that we're setting up for ourselves. I do have to say, though.
It's a horrible, horrible world that just has boners in it. Like, we're focused on the wrong science, guys.
Let's be honest. If there's something this world could do with a little less, old boners.
Old boners.
Just
could use
fucking boners.
Fewer, for sure.
Like, I think there should just be an age where it's like, just be an oral guy. You know what I mean? How about you give some pleasure out for once?
Yeah.
Send that the other way.
You've spent your life taking, now you will give.
Yeah, you want your fucking 60-year-old rock-hard dick to look like the arm of that monster in Pan's Labyrinth? Just fucking skin. You can't even see veins anymore. It's just like fucking wrinkles and saggage. Blech. Neither here nor who wants a liver-spotted erection? That's all I'm saying. Also, personally, I hope that I will just be powerful enough that I will always have a working hog, but probably not. Neither here nor there. How repulsive to talk about in the middle of this film. I will say, though, the baby juice scene is another wonderful moment in the film. Because he talks about this is how he helps, bring some money into the orphanage.
Right.
Is that he's a man of science who's kind of denouncing, like, there aren't ghosts here. Like, duh, obviously there's not ghosts here. But also he's more than willing to go to town and sling this shit for a little coin, take advantage of those people. Also, drinking it himself. Again, the adult fantasies are also, a little more disturbing.
Almost
in this movie.
Offers it to Carlos. I'm like, bro, not okay.
Whatever's wrong with Carlos, the answer is not in that
the
shot
answer
glass.
is not your weird baby juice boner juice. Not okay.
The 7-Eleven horny goat weed. Like, I am out. Thanks, sir. Have I bought those as a laugh and drank them, washed down with the Four Loko? Yes. It was college. It was not a proud night.
It's like one of those things you're like, have some boner juice and some Takis. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
Oh,
Takis.
Like,
bro, get out of here.
Yeah. Takis do make everything better.
Takis are really good, but
if there were Takis floating around in that juice, I would probably eat one. But that, again, neither here nor there. Alex, walk me through the doctor's unrequited love story.
Oh, man. There is this really sweet thing about, like,
wonderful,
the stuff with
right?
Carmen. Like, it is, like, really nice. Like, I like their thing. Like, and it ends so tragically, but I do like that scene, by the way, where he's tending to her wounds and, like, It fucking got me. Like Federico Lupi is so good. Like particularly he goes back in there like in like this the explosion in the kitchen. Sorry, like it's a beautiful love story. Sorry, I'm just gonna cut to the part that I like the most, which is this like super sad, tragic part. So the kitchen explodes, and it like we cut back to when he wakes up, and again like he's just incredible. Like what an actor for Guillermo del Toro to have for his like first 2 movies. So he like walks through the scene, you know, and he finds her. And it is just this like really beautiful, solemn moment. And I cried when he cried. Like like it's a true heartbroken. Like it's not even selling. It's just love, like pure, true love. Like it broke my heart, man. It's lovely.
It's so sad because we see him earlier practicing his poetry, right? To when he someday has a chance. Mm-hmm. He's practicing these things to win her over, right?
Right.
And it's a really wonderful sentiment that then is just cruelly ripped from us.
Ugh.
As we find out that the maintenance guy who we thought is going to marry this young lady and go off and have a farm, right? Mm-hmm. Is just plowing Carmen, right? And he even says, like, what are you worried the old man will hear? And I was like, that is so fucking sad. Yeah. But then at the end when she's just, you know, stay with me as I fade away, right? And he just kind of talks to her and watches her go. And then it leads to that sentiment he says, right? He's like, I was just a guy who never saw things through all the way. And I'll never leave this place. Like, I'm seeing this all the way through. And you get the sense that he died with her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then like
that was secretly, I was like, this is like one of the coolest things in the movie, that it just kind of gets washed away by some of the bigger elements.
It does, but I love
wonderful,
like then like the capper on that is him just like going up to that room and staring out the window. It's that beautiful shot behind him of him just staring out the window, like
very John Ford like, yeah,
like that 40-yard stare thing where you're just like. It's not even you're over it. You're just you've taken to the understanding you've lost the thing you love the most. Like it is really, it's this really beautiful. There's beautiful sentimentality to it. It's a really lovely, like for being so tragic, it is this really lovely moment itself. It's I don't know. It made me cry.
Yeah, that was a wonderful. And again, it's like the optimism of knowing what he knows, right? That he's not what she wants per se.
Right.
And that someone else is giving her, you know, these other desires. Mm-hmm. But he never stops. In a way, he also exudes that childlike belief that he'll just keep being a good man and reading his poetry and not judging her for getting her sexual needs met. And that he'll be there when the time is right. Is just so fucking endearing, man. Like, it's a lovely performance.
It's a lovely sentiment, lovely performance, saddest thing. And like, for a movie that's filled with sadness, like one of the top.
It's probably the second best performance in the film, because the best performer in the film is the lunch lady. I don't know what her title would be.
Conchita.
Yeah. So when all the gasoline cans are on fire and about to blow up, she's waving a towel at it, like fully committed. I was like, that's so stupid that it becomes ultra believable. I was like, the full committing, and she's the first one we see when the fireball goes. Lunch lady disintegrated. Like she's atoms.
Oh, sorry, that's not Conchita. Sorry.
Yeah, she can't even get the poetry because she's just like, just fucking like fanning these gasoline flames, and just a fireball. Just like her ghost, you won't even be able to see. There's nothing floating except for her.
Yeah,
gone. Total character immersion.
Total character immersion.
Yeah. All right.
That borders on glib there, Griff, but
how dare you? I like committing, right? There are no small roles, only small actors. Make a meal out of it. That's what I say. All right, let's talk about the kids. What about this group of children was making it so enjoyable to spend time with for you?
What about it? I mean,
yeah.
That's like what I talked about at the top. Like it's this wonderment of children, like for kids who know they're in a dangerous situation, like danger's literally outside their door. for them to not seek danger, but for them to constantly still sort of seek adventure in this way.
Mm-hmm.
That is the thing that keeps you going in the movie. Because, like, and it's not that they're dangerous kids. They're not doing anything stupid. They're just breaking curfew. But, like, at least the first night. But I think what's important is that these kids understand that they are, in a way, special. Not, like, special in the universe, but just they are willing to break rules so that I don't know how to describe it. Damn it. I'm like at a
No, I mean,
loss.
you're not wrong. Every child is the center of their own universe. And
Yeah,
you hope
maybe
that as you grow into
that is
it.
a great way to put it.
Yeah, when
That
you
is
grow
it
into
right there.
adulthood, you hope that people lose that. Most don't. But when you're
Most
a child,
don't.
especially, it's really hard to imagine that everyone's not seeing shit
Yeah.
and why it matters to you.
That's what it is. I think because, like, at the very beginning, so when, like, Carlos meets Owl and Galvez, like, and then gets, like, kind of accosted by Jaime, like, you see the hierarchy of how this whole thing works. And then after that first night when Carlos won't give him up, when you see their world, like, rather than it being a hierarchy, almost immediately it becomes this, like, unit. Like, it becomes this unit together. And I think that is the thing that I liked the most is, like, kids more than anything understand that they have to stick together. Like,
When he hands him that naked lady picture as like we're cool now.
yeah, that was... Dude,
And Carlos
that's, like,
just goes, she's quite a looker. With her sideways vagina. It's like, what? Because, for real, I laughed so hard because that was a real thing that happened in our school. I had a kid in my class. He got an out-of-school suspension for 1 week because he was the first one that could draw a naked lady, like, pretty well. And so he would draw them, but he made a fatal mistake. He wrote his name on the bottom of all of them.
Oh, see,
And we
yeah.
would all give him $2, and he would draw us a naked lady.
Smart guy.
Hey man, it was a non-digital time. We had to make
He's a graphic artist now. He does very well. But no, I mean, like, when kids form a unit and it no longer becomes this hierarchy, like, it becomes this, it becomes that, like, Goonies type thing where I think that's what I like the most about this.
Yeah.
It's not that they're Goonies, because they're not, but it's that they follow that.
I mean, they are, man. They stick together.
If they follow that methodology of sticking together. And I think that's what makes kids, especially
If the Goonies had
Guillermo
fucking shanked the Fratellis with stalactites,
holy shit.
and they're the kids from the Devil's Backbone.
I think in Guillermo del Toro movies, particularly when this movie particularly, obviously, when people start sticking together is when I see, especially kids, is when I see him doing his best work. Like, when he's putting kids in the driver's seat of the storytelling, and not only that, like, when he's deciding that we all get to watch this movie through the eyes of the children that we're following, that's when the movies really start to move. And that's when, like, especially this back half of this movie, like, the last 35 minutes becomes so not even empowering, just, like, wonderful to watch. Just even though it ends with pretty gruesome death, but it's worth it and deserved. But at the
Also,
same time,
fuck that guy. No.
yeah, I mean, fuck that guy hardcore. But, like, that's why you don't. It's interesting, like, when people who you really root for kill people in movies. Like, normally it's like, I don't know. If it's a mafia movie, you're like, well, they're all going to kill each other anyways. What does it even matter?
There is something different, though, about watching kids that you sympathize with just stabbing a dude with sticks.
Stabbing the shit out of this
When
guy. And,
when
like,
he leaps out and stabs him under the armpit,
oh,
I retched.
Yeah.
So I'm old now. I get I told you I went to see Jackass Forever, and I knew that I'm hitting a new stage in my life because every time I was like, like, I wasn't laughing. I was like feeling physical pain, like, oh, that's dangerous. Your insurance is going. No, I'm not that old, but still, like, it hurt me to watch that movie now. And I was like, oh, I used to see that as a kid and then run out and, like, jump off my friend's car face first into stop signs so we could film it, right? And now you're like, oh, God, the danger. And that scene fucking hurt my body. But I think what it is, right, is that these kids should have no reason to be nice or care about anyone, even Jamie, and they do.
Jaime,
sorry. I'm just a Philistine. I can't help it. It's my
You whites.
I'm a man of the people. Syrian, first off, not whites like you. It's fine. I'm just a man of the people, right? I walk amongst the common people of this earth, and I will pronounce the names as best I can. Sorry, I don't have your high coastal elite learning.
Well, we went to the same college, but keep going.
I mean, I occasionally attended classes between hangovers.
Here we go.
Neither here nor. I mean, I was
too
just
cool for school. Josh Griffey.
I was just fucking cool. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, I've clearly fallen a lot. Like the bomb in this film, I have fallen far and am stuck in the mud. But at one time, I was cool and explosivo.
Stuck in the mud and won't even go off.
Tell me about it. I need some of that fucking baby juice. Neither here nor there, as we say. But yeah, I like the fact that these kids who have no reason to fight for each other, right? And again, it's a really staggering turn in the film when we're like, oh my God, they just fucking killed and blew up all the grown-ups. And there's a fucking murderer running around the orphanage. And, it's like they say when they're loading the truck before all the carnage breaks out. We don't have enough people. You older kids got to look out for the younger kids.
Right.
And they don't say, fuck those weaklings, right? Like Lord of the Flies. They just do it, man. They just do it because they have that nature, right? That, of course, you should do good for other people. Why wouldn't we? I thought that was great. And again, I think the bully, right? Jaime. I think he was a wonderful reveal, too, the fact that he had seen this horrific event. Yeah. That kind of explains some of his jadedness, right? So him being that kid at the start of the movie and watching him open up and become a protector and good again was a really nice surprise.
That was like my favorite arc. I like the redemption of an unwilling bully in a way. Mm-hmm. And if that's how I felt about Jaime even at the start, like it's someone, and then like you find out it's because he's seen some fucked up shit. You're like, well, there it is. Like
we would probably all also be a little ruffled.
I think we'd all be a little on edge moving forward in our lives. I mean, but I like the redemptive quality and how it goes. Like I really enjoyed that aspect. Like,
it was also such a nice kind of spiritual baton passing, right? Because when we find out later that he didn't kill Santi, but that Santi said, "Run and hide, I got this." Mm-hmm. And so he took care of his friend, right? Knowing that he was going to get some form of very bad punishment for having seen the safe and the guy there, right? He knew something bad was coming, but his first thought was, hey, get out of here. I'll take this. You don't have to get hurt too. Right. And then seeing him later make the full transition to now he is protecting and, shepherding these other kids. I thought that was a really nice. A lot of movies do that kids who bully thing. And it's very two-dimensional and flat, and they don't look at, the back of that, right? And I thought that was really cool. All right, kids aside, how fucking cool was Santi in this movie, man?
Oh, it was great, man.
I fucking loved the ghost moments in this film.
Just, like, awesome makeup effects. Again, like, it never feels false. Like, there's things that in movies when they come up, like they feel like apparition. They feel like
an example. Even Crimson Peak, those ghosts have no reality to them, right? They don't feel like they're there and menacing. They feel like cartoon blood monsters, right? Not necessarily the mom at the start, but Santi does not suffer from that.
No, Santi is Santi's in makeup, and it's I like the scene when the scene when Carlos says, "I'm not going to run away anymore. I want to talk to you."
Love that. The yellow ribbon floats over, yeah.
Like, the look is so powerful. Like, and it's just, and again, this movie, 80% of this movie takes place during the day. Like, ghosts walk among us during the day, and, like, you're just like, oh, shit. Like, it doesn't matter when it is. Like, there is no safety. And I think that's the other thing, too.
There's no time out for the repeating tragedy of a ghost, yeah.
Yeah. That's what's so cool about this movie, too, is that there is no safety in the daylight. It's just part of.
Honestly, the shit in the real world is where all the danger is in the daylight.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Yeah.
So.
No,
but
it's
yeah, he looked awesome.
I mean, again, the floating kind of bits from the water, the blood floating from the wound. I mean, just awesome. But even just the little touches, right? So the first thing we see are wet footprints. The name, the one who sighs.
Yeah.
Right? You just imagine Santi walking in to see his friends and just, that's all he's got, man. I thought it was really beautiful, right? Even the first time when he runs outside, right, and we see Santi briefly in the reflection. It's a really beautiful and haunting ghostly image. Mm-hmm. And it's not trying to get you there with the grotesqueness. You almost forget how grotesque an image that Santi is by the end of the film. This was a just murdered child for no fucking reason. Right. Possibly could have been saved. There's a doctor who lives in the orphanage. I think that's the nature, though, is that at the end it becomes kind of a welcome protector image, right? When really that should be as repulsive a thing as we've seen.
Right. Well, like, to me, the thing that's creepiest, and it's like the you know how, remember the ending of What Lies Beneath when he when the ghost of the lady basically comes alive and drags him down into the water. Like, the ending of this when Jacinto is in the water and
dude,
that's my favorite. That's
what
my favorite
a
Santi
fucking
look.
moment, man. Oh,
that's
when
my
he just
favorite Santi
appears
look.
and just it's not violent. There's not a lot of thrashing. It's
just come with me
again. Like, inevitability.
That shit is scary as hell. That
Talk
part
about Chekhov's fucking gold bricks. Am I right?
every pod there's a Chekhov.
I mean, it's just always there. I was like, yeah, sure, this guy's gonna walk across the desert with fucking 8 gold bricks. Oh, he tied a little hanky one around his nuts like he's a bodybuilder doing dips. Okay.
Yeah.
Wink. Yeah.
What a fucking dumbass. But yeah, that's
I like that moment,
Santi
though, because it also kind of harkens back to another movie we definitely need to cover is Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Oh, yeah.
But that fucking ending, right? Like, all that fucking shit you saw. Mm-hmm. The gold is just fucking dust in the wind, man.
It's over.
Kind of a fucking sad-ass ending, too, but still. Just like, goddamn, no one even got any fucking gold. I thought the kids were at least going to be balling out.
I thought the kids would at least, be able to...
We were going to get, a Disney's Blank Check sequel, right?
The Devil's Backbone 2, back in gold.
The Devil's fucking Deep Pockets, Part 2. Right?
The Devil's Backbone 2, Deep Pockets.
They're making it rain. They're just putting cigar rings, paper rings on every girl in town. Yep. Living the life. They earned it. But yeah, man, I thought that was really just, oh my God, just such a, and again, I can't remember what it was. We talked about this on another show, but I was watching this documentary about a horror film, right? And they're just like, it is so, or no, Lobo was talking about this on Fear Street. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, it is so hard to create a horror movie monster in this day and age. Something that is just simple and communicates all of this power. Mm-hmm. And Santi definitely did that. That's fine. Go ahead.
It just requires no further explanation. If you had told someone it's a dead kid, they'd be like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
But then Santi's just,
and they're like, you're going to show it right up front?
On the front. And
not
then,
like Casper.
The actual specter itself is pretty fucking, it's fucking badass.
Ugh. It's fucking horrible, man. We have not yet talked about, we still have the big ending. We have not yet talked about the only scene that takes place not at the orphanage. So this is when the professor goes to town to sell his
sell the boner juice.
4 inches of Loco, right? He's selling it in the town.
Oh, that's good. 4 inches of Loco, that's good.
That's what we'll call it for the olds who need to get it up. And the war is now at their doorstep, right? Mm-hmm. Again, the acting in this moment, because he sees the man who brought Carlos to the orphanage, right? He knows that soldiers from the cause could rat them out. The thing about this scene that I fucking love the most, right? Because essentially they line him up and do a firing squad, right? Just one in the back of the head, right? Down the line. So instead of showing too much of that, right? We cut right to the doctor's face. And some other guys talking to him, right? Kind of hinting like, what's up, doc? Are those your friends? He's like, no. Every time you hear one of those shots, the doctor's whole body convulses.
Yep.
The man next to him doesn't flinch or blink at all.
No. It's a spectacular scene that does an absurd amount of work without doing anything. Like, it tells you everything you need to know about what this doc's been going through versus what these soldiers intend to do. Like, this is part of their duty, but like it does such a good job of humanizing the doctor and dehumanizing these people who are invading.
Yeah. Well, it's weird too because it puts a very specific face on the war. Because other than that, the war is just something that is talked about. You know, that's why there's not enough this and that, right? Mm-hmm. In this moment, that brutality's right there. The thing I really liked about how they used this scene. So before it's a cause, right? They're all on the same side of this cause, right? They're fighting for a different version of Spain, right? When he sees that, he goes back to that orphanage and he's like, fuck the cause. We got to get the fuck out of here, right? Like, right. And all of a sudden, this theoretical politics of whose side are you on, this and that, he's just a man who's afraid to lose his love. And I thought that too, right? That he's not this stoic and heroic guy who's going to see it through, right? It makes that ending with him in the shotgun so much more impactful because he tells us, right? He didn't follow through with Carmen. He didn't follow through with the cause. He's just not that guy. But now he's going to, and he will not let himself die until he sees this through. I thought it was an interesting choice because it feels like the kind of movie that's not going to let us out of that orphanage, right?
Yeah.
That in a way, the orphanage is supposed to be a prison for our mind and attention.
Right.
I thought it was really fascinating to take it out. And then it doesn't really come into effect. It's not soldiers that come to the orphanage and do the damage. Oh, we do get the scene on the road, though, right? When she heads out.
Yeah. Well, there's that, but like at the same time, it still feels it's so isolated. Like it's this huge, wide shot and nothing in the background.
But that like motherfucker, right? Just a brief little recapping, right? So he is mad that they're going to leave without him, right? He starts calling in. They're like, I've been fucking laying the pipe. I need the money. And she calls him, the sad prince, right? The boy with no kingdom, whatever. And she fucking canes his ass. Fucks his eye up, right? And then, the doctor's got a shotgun. He's like, get the fuck out of here. So he comes back with his gang, right? One of which is named Pig, if I remember right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the big guy is named Pig, right? It's kind of like in Star Wars, right? Porkins, right? Spiritual successor to Porkins.
Or a piggy.
There you go. There's a lot of them. It's not nice. We just I don't know why these parents keep doing that. I'm assuming it's their mean friends. But he comes back, right? And his girlfriend is on the way to town, right? No help is coming. Beautiful moment when Jaime puts the cigar ring on her finger. Mm-hmm. It's just a really sweet, endearing little touch, right? That little extra personal touch. She goes out and I love this fucking moment from, what's his name?
Who?
The
Jaime?
bad guy. No, not Jaime.
Jacinto.
God damn it, I'm getting it mixed up. So Jacinto, this is a great moment for him. Probably my favorite moment with him in the film. Is he comes up to her and he just walks up and he's like, just apologize. You're making me look bad in front of the guys.
Right.
And in that one little bit, you learn everything you need to about this guy, right? This is definitely a movie about putting on false mask and identity.
Right.
But he's just a guy who can't stand to be embarrassed, and he feels like he's constantly in a state of embarrassment. And when she says, I'm not fucking scared of you, I was cheering at my TV, and then he, just cold as fuck, slides that knife into her. It's such a beautifully shot image of just grotesque, ultra-personal violence. It's a really impactful scene to me.
I think that's the thing that makes this movie so impactful is the personability of the violence itself. Like, there's nothing that feels, even the bomb sitting in the courtyard, like even the explosion of the kitchen, it all feels very personal.
Yeah.
Like person to person. It's not this thing where it's just like violence for violence sake, or not sure I'd even put it that way. It's not this thing where it's just violence to keep the story moving forward. It's all personable and up close violence.
Oh, like even when he slices Santi's cheek, you're like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Again, you're like, Jesus.
You were just telling them that if anything happened to them, you would get in trouble for it. Let me slice that cheek. Again, he needs a Nelly Band-Aid. Needs a Nelly Band-Aid. That's what we've learned.
It was Jesus Christ. Again, it's just one of those things where the violence is not for violence sake, and I think that's something that Del Toro does so well, even in movies that are just ridiculous, like Pacific Rim and Blade 2, where you're like, well, there's a lot of violence in these movies. Like,
I'd have to rewatch that one to make sure, but that feels pretty arbitrary to me. When the fucking giant genital-faced vampires are doing pro wrestling moves off pillars and shit.
Yeah, there's some of that shit that you're just like,
but that's just good fun. That's good fun. Not every movie's going to be a deep,
but not everybody movie is going to be the devil's backbone, which is, as he puts at the end of the movie, for my parents, it's very personal. It's a very personal story. So, I mean, for me personally, I said personal twice, Jesus Christ. But
the word personal is very personal to you.
Word personal is very personal to me. I mean, that is the thing that I like. That is the thing I think that I find the most endearing about the way he makes these kinds of movies that are close to him is there's nothing bombastic about the violence in those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
Like,
and he doesn't sacrifice brutality for that. Right?
No, not at all. I mean, you can factor that into his background as a makeup effects person, but honestly, I would just factor it into that's how he decides as a storyteller to tell a story, and which is interesting. And
but even the bad guy, right? We learn of his story as the saddest orphan, right? You were always the saddest one, right?
Right.
He's not just this two-dimensional madman who wants to take over the world, right? In a way, he does, but we're always shown him through the lens of, you're not going to be the guy that gets all these gold bricks. We just know that, right? There is a sad tragedy to him that becomes more acceptable to us as an audience because we knew he was never getting those bricks, right? He's just not that guy. He's always been the guy that was sad, and it was never going to be enough, right? He was always, had he gotten every brick in that place, right, and had millions of dollars to his name or whatever currency he needed, right, he was always going to be the prince without a kingdom because when he got left there, that was it for him, right? And I think that is, again, it's just this really rooted to the fucking earth of this story moment, right? Now, big finale, right? We have a big finale in this movie. He comes back with this fucked up eye, blows everything up, right? Everyone's all fucked up. The kids are doing triage on other kids. It's fucking horrifying, right? They're coming back for the safe, right? A scene I love is when the doctor wakes up and he's like, get my phonograph. Just so that they can hear his music and see him standing in the window as a sentinel, right? Yeah. And they're like, fuck, we got to go. We could come back later. We'll wait him out. And then he just fucking collapses, right? And the moment when you see that he's gone and the flies are buzzing around him and he's rigor mortis around this gun.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I keep coming back to the doctor, man. He really is just the like pounding heart of this film. Yeah, but that was just...
Well, that was one of those
sad moment for me.
It's this sad moment that I think it's a sad moment and emotionally just has it has the emotional heft so that when later on the reveal, the real reveal,
when
that is like,
when he comes back as the ghost, the only thing was I thought he was going to get a piece. But that's not really how the ghosts in this movie operate, right? These are not ghosts out for revenge, right? These are kind of reminders of tragedies more than revenge. Yeah. So instead of manifesting where he's like, I'm going to rip that dude's dick off and cram it down his throat, right? Shave his head, make him eat it, glue it to his ass, whatever. Nothing like that, right? Actually, I believe that was what Emilio did in Breakfast Club. Weird. Neither here nor there. Who's the real monster? Neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is he doesn't use his ghostly powers to seek out and crush and get revenge. He uses it to open the door and let the kids out so that they can defend themselves, and reassures them that they're going to be okay. And I thought that was awesome. And then, of course, they just brutally stab and maim this guy.
Brutally stab, maim him. But, like, I'll tell you right now, that ending shot of the boys leaving the orphanage, they're walking out, and it's the voiceover.
He has been our narrator the whole time.
And he's been, like, I think that's the thing, too, is, like, I always assume he's the narrator the whole time, but I didn't realize until why at the end.
Yeah, it never really mattered. Like, I didn't think about, the narrator has to be a character in this movie for some reason. Like, it's pretty obvious. But,
but then, and he's just standing at the doorway. Like, again, I'm just like.
But it's this beautiful inversion, too, of now the kids are leaving the adult behind in the orphanage.
Yeah.
I mean, he does this thing, right? What is a ghost? A repeating tragedy, this, that, and the other. And he just says, I'm a ghost. That's what I am. And that was a really cool sentiment, right? Because it's strange because the narration feels like it's talking to us from the present, right? Mm-hmm. And looking backwards.
Yeah.
The fact that at the end he says, I'm a ghost, that's who I am, I thought was strange. What did you make of that moment?
I mean, to me, that is what he's felt his entire life. Like, there's nothing about what the doctor has done throughout the entire movie that doesn't fill him with regret. So he was a ghost. He was a ghost when he was alive. He's always been a ghost. Yeah. There's so much that he didn't do. Not even like, I should have done that. Like, I should have kissed that girl, that kind of stuff, because that's what you would automatically expect. But it's like, it's beyond that. It's like, I didn't have the strength to be who I wanted to be. Yeah. Like, I've been a ghost my entire life. Like, this is who I am no matter what. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, I thought it's not just putting poetry in the words of a ghost, right? It's
no.
What I thought was interesting about it is that I think what the movie's telling us is that once we hit adulthood, we're all ghosts in a way.
Right.
And watching those kids walk off into the sunset, he almost sounds as if he's saying, like, I'm a ghost, and I hope that none of them ever will be. Now, that is just it's just this really heartfelt reminder of his take that the ghosts are as equally human as every other character in the film. And it's a beautiful ending, man. And the mystery and the intrigue are not to the highest level of some of his other movies. But again, the gold in the leg, that was awesome. The leg's extra heavy today. You think it's just because she's carrying the weight of this coming war and saving these kids. No, she put the bricks in that leg. Right. It's just cool, man. Like the unfurling of everything, the plot and the mystery aside. To me, what I take away from this movie is just that really deep connection with kind of our struggle to accept ourselves as we are, right? Because that's what it's cool. When the kids all bond, right? You were talking about that scene earlier. What I think is always fun about those scenes is when kids are in large groups like that, we get a chance to see what society would look like if we weren't all full of shit. Right? Because kids just aren't full of shit. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good way to put it. Yeah.
They just kind of say exactly what they think. They haven't been like whipped into lying and like, oh, okay. Like they don't spare feelings all the time, right? And we look at it as adults, we're like, oh God. As a parent, you're like always worried about that shit. But I think it is just nice. Like, what if we all just didn't lie to ourselves?
Right.
Like so many of the adults in the film are doing. That's what I take away from it. Is just no matter how bad this moment gets, we are not ghosts, right? Part of us will always be ghostly, right? And we'll always be looking backwards. But we should know that and press forward and try to do better. Like the characters in this film against pretty fucking enormous brutality and horror. I know some people, it's one of those like film Twitter things, right? Is this actually even a horror movie? Hey, man, I'm not here to have that argument with people. You call it whatever genre you want. This is just a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like, just a wonderful fucking film. And I am so fucking glad the patrons selected this one as our finale. Don't worry, guys. Me and Alex are going to jump in our two-man Jaeger and battle kaijus eventually.
I'm sure we'll find a way to do that in Mimic someday.
If I'm being honest, not to be shitting on the patrons in this wonderful movie,
I thought
my specific vote, because I also vote in case there's a tiebreaker.
Same.
Mimic was the choice I made. I wanted to do.
I voted for Mimic too.
Here's actually a fun thing. If you're doing Del Toro with us, I don't know when we record this versus when it'll air. HBO has Mimic 1 through 3.
They do.
I didn't know there was a 2 and 3. Part 2 is fucking wild. Just a straight up wild sequel to Mimic. So yeah, have yourself some fun. Guys, you can never go wrong when you dig Del Toro. That's it for The Devil's Backbone. That's it for us for now. For Del Toro, I'm sure we'll be back. He's one of those guys I feel like will clean out the entire filmography at some point.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, on our way out, remember, the Patreon is patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show, the best way to make the show exactly what you want and deserve. We appreciate any support. Thank you so much for spending your hard-earned time and money with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. The YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. Find us on all the social media you're on where you can share this with your friends. Of course, you'll obviously want to do that. So you get some street cred, right? We'll even trade you our comic books if you do that. No, we won't. That's a lie.
I'm not doing that.
We won't do that. But something we will do is ask you to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you find the show. Little things like that help us out. You guys are so generous with your time and support. Thank you again. Thank you to Guillermo del Toro for making so many wonderful movies.
Sir.
You encapsulate why I love movies so much. It's truly been a great pleasure this month. Next month, the pod gets scholarly. The pod studies The Bard. All Shakespeare adaptations next month, guys.
Yeah, we'll get to this again, but guys, we're pretty scholarly.
You guys better tighten up your panties, right? Get those extra tight buttons.
Lace up your pantaloons.
Yeah, some extra tight compression
your
shorts.
bodices.
Yeah, because guess what? You guys aren't going to have asses. We're going to blow them off with our intellect.
Yep.
Deep dissection.
Adorn yourselves with your puffy shirts. It will be quite a month.
Get your little neck pillows that before we even had airplanes on. And let's shake the spear. That's next month for the Film Alchemist Pod. I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.